Are we ready, Shirley? Are you ready? Good evening, everyone. Testing.
Walt, do
Testing.
you still got somebody?
Where's Bobby? She'll tell us.
No, that might be me. Maybe. Uh-oh. Good?
I feel like it might be your fault.
Well, I'm off. It's not me then.
I am off. So yeah.
I'm off.
No, but you have that one off. Yeah. I do.
All right. All right. There we go. All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education regular meeting. Shirley, may we have a roll call?
Troy Carr,
Here.
Jamie Clapham. Here. Christine Stephenson.
Here.
Deb Baker,
Present.
Michael Berkland,
Here.
Walt Schwan,
Here.
Kate Thomas, present. Samuel Blickensderfer.
Here.
And Jace Jandrew.
Here. All right, thank you very much. It doesn't look like the person that was here to do the invocation is here, so can I ask that we observe a 30-second moment of silence, please? All right, thank you, everyone. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
No discussions. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. At this time, we'll have Superintendent Swigert come with sharing the success.
Thank you, President Carr. As you know, this is my very favorite part of board meetings. Tonight, we have 3 wonderful district employees to recognize. I am going to start tonight with Lynn Abernathy. Aberly, I don't know, I'm adding letters today. Lynn, Alberty, come on up. Have to find the right folder here. So Lynn was named in 50 directors who make a difference. She's a band director at West Middle School, and she was recognized as the South Dakota winner for directors who make a difference by the School Band and Orchestra magazine. 1 director is selected from each state. Miss Alberty from West Middle School has been teaching for 34 years. I'm guessing that she started 1991. 87. Okay, well, she reports that her proudest moment as an educator occurs every time she witnesses a student come out of their shell because of band. She teaches 5th through 8th grade band, so this happens frequently in her classroom. A student who starts band as a shy 5th grader and leaves as an 8th grader as a self-confident young musician brings her great joy. She thinks music ensembles provide a great opportunity for students to find a way to express themselves and to become more confident in pursuing their passion. When asked How does she hope to make a difference in her students' lives? She said, I want my students to think of my classroom as a place where it is safe for them to be themselves. I want them to trust that I will always be kind and patient with them, even on their worst days. And what is the most important lesson she tries to teach her students? She tries to teach them that when they make a mistake, they need to pick themselves up, find their place, and keep going, whether it's in band or anywhere else. Congratulations. I hope you got something better than this when you were named, but Bobby's gonna take it. Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much.
Next, tonight, we are going to recognize Brandon Colpitz. He is the He is the Football Coach Recognition Award. Mr. Colpitz's first year as the Cobbler football coach this year. And the South Dakota Football Coaches Association recognized Rapid City Central head football coach Brandon Colpitz as this year's Callan DeBoer Unsung Coach of the Year in the whole state and among all football classifications. This award was named after DeBoer, a Millbank native, for his accomplishments on a national stage, as he just recently became Nick Saban's successor at the University of the Alabama football program. Coach Colpitz was selected by a committee of coaches for his amazing performance this fall, creating a winning culture of maximum effort and commitment, along with impressive strategies and sportsmanship from his whole roster. Congratulations, Coach Colpitz. Thank you. Appreciate you for coming. And last, but of course not least, a dear friend of many years, Mr. Joey Lohr. At the State One Act Festival this year, Joey Lohr was, I think, surprised by the National Federation of High School Outstanding Theater Education Award. The National Federation of High Schools annually recognizes outstanding theater educators from across the country. Each state is permitted to select one outstanding theater educator for consideration for this award. And we are pleased to learn that Joey Lohr has been selected as the 23-24 South Dakota recipient of the NFHS Outstanding Theater Educator Award. This award has 3 tiers. The first tier is the state award, which Mr. Lohr received at the State One Act Play Festival Awards ceremony on Saturday, February 3rd at the Brandon Valley High School. The second tier is a sectional award, and the winner will advance to the national competition with award to be presented at the National Federation of High School Summer Meeting. Congratulations to Mr. Lohr for being a truly outstanding educator, and congratulations to Central High School for supporting Mr. Lohr and his students throughout the years. His theater program has proven year after year that it is among the top programs in the state, and I would say the nation. You feel very proud of the amazing, I feel very proud. I feel very proud. I feel very proud of the amazing work Mr. Lohr does for the theater students at Central High School. His work has not gone unnoticed, and it is appreciated not only by his students, but by the many theater educators and students from all across South Dakota.
Just.
Thank you very much.
Any board member like to make a comment or say something extra? Go, Ms. Clapham.
Really quickly, thank you to you all. Ms. Alberty, I'm gonna beg you to stay till at least my son leaves the 8th grade. I'm gonna make that public shameless plea. But to just say that you guys represent your profession, our district, the state in such a wonderful way, and we're so grateful. And I hope that parents, people watching recognize how lucky we are in this district to have staff like you, and we are very grateful for you. So thank you very much, all of you.
Anybody else? Right, at this time, we'll have student reports. Up first is Mr. Blinkensderfer from Stevens High School.
Hello, everybody. I hope you all are having a great evening. I hope your month is also off to a great start. So this Wednesday, tomorrow, Stevens will be having a Testapalooza. The sophomores will take the pre-ACT, the juniors will take the notorious ACT, and the seniors will take the NCRC, which is a career readiness exam. The testing for all of these students, grades 10 through 12, should last until about 12 o'clock, and it will begin at 8 a.m. for the sophomores and the juniors, and 8:30 a.m. for the seniors. Testing is going to be, the proctors for the tests are going to be our teachers, so it'll be a fun day of exams. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week, our Stevens girls basketball team will be heading to Sioux Falls for the state tournament. It will be in the Sioux Falls Pentagon. After placing 7th last year in the championship, we hope to get, first place, but we're just having fun. So they're going to be very strong this year, and it will be fun to see how well they do. Ashley Peterson and Grace Island are both semifinalists for the KEVN Rising Star of the West Scholarship. Grace was featured last night on Coda Territory News, and Ashley will be featured tomorrow night. The finalists will advance into May, and whoever wins will receive a $7,500 scholarship. Last Tuesday at 7 p.m., Student Council held the 13th annual Mr. SHS in the Milo Winter Auditorium. This is a competition between 8 senior boys, around 8 or 9, and who compete in 5 different categories. Congratulations to Grady Lowe's for taking the overall title. And this event was able to raise children's money for the Children's Miracle Network. We raised over $1,700, so it was really awesome to see our school help the community. All of the money will also be donated, so all of that $1,700 will be going back into the Children's Miracle Network. And a big shout out to Stevens High School Student Council students Nikki Dame, Maya Nishimura, Lena Williamson, and Paige McNabb for setting it all up. It was a lot of work setting these events up, and having students do it is awesome. So they did a great job setting this event up. And then congratulations to Paul Ferdinand for being selected as the South Dakota Cross Country and Track and Field Assistant Coach of the Year for the girls. And then congratulations to Raider Track and Field Assistant Coach Jesse Coy for being selected as the Cross Country and Track and Field Coach for boys on the Western stage. And then Miss Brittany Lewis is this week's Teacher Spotlight. She has been serving at Stevens High School for 18 years, not including the year she attended the school in high school. She is teaching technical education classes, which include graphic design, computer applications, and computer sciences, just to name a few. Her classes help print stickers and t-shirts for other clubs and classes in our school. And she is also working on the Hike Video Project, which will take the football and basketball and volleyball video productions to another level. She will be attending DSU next year to obtain a degree in teaching cybersecurity. So we are very blessed and fortunate to have her part of our graphics design department. And that is it for this week. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
Did I see that you competed for Mr. SHS? I think I saw that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for participating in that.
What was your talent?
I unicycled, so yeah. The first fall was accidental, but the second one staged, so minor injuries.
All right, Mr. Jan Drew from Central High School.
All right, good evening, and I'm Jace. I'll be reporting for Central today. So, first, an update of all things academic. Starting tomorrow, Central will host its testing day which will be March 6th at 8:25 a.m. All 11th grade students will be taking the ACT, and all 9th and 10th grade students will be taking the pre-ACT. Pre-ACT is especially a great opportunity for students to have additional practice at no cost, so they can prepare for their junior year. It's pretty nice for seniors. We have the day off, but We asked that students bring wooden pencils to their test, a calculator, and their school issued ID. And juniors just need to bring their school issued laptops. We also have begun our course selection process. This was rolled out during grad time, and prior to March 13th, students will input their course requests on Skyward for the upcoming year. We also be doing FAFSA help during parent-teacher conference night, March 19th from 5 to 6:30. There will be a FAFSA help station set up outside of the Cobbler Career Center for any FAFSA related questions. Since it's going to coincide with the parent-teacher conferences, this helps so that parents and students can, figure it out together. Now on to our activities news. Applications for the Youth Council, which will be run from June 2024 to May 2025, term are open until March 31st. Just recently, our own representative for Youth City Council helped run an art auction for student lunch debt. The central community banded together and donated a lot of art for this auction, and we are very proud of them for helping set that up and do good work for the Rapid City community. Now for sports, our track season has just begun this week, and we are beyond excited to see and cheer on these students at all their future meets. Girls softball, they have spring tryouts, which will be 4 to 6 o'clock p.m. on March 11th through the 12th at the Parkview Fields. Also, congratulations to the speech and debate team who qualified 3 students to complete at the national level. So we're gonna be wishing them good luck, and go Cobblers.
Right, very good. Thank you very much. Any questions from our representatives, to our representatives? Thank you, gentlemen. You did a great job tonight. All right, persons wishing to address the school board, we have 2 on tonight. And just so that we're all on the same page, I'll just quickly go over our guidelines. Number 1, issues that affect an individual or particular school should be first addressed at the building level. Number 2, speakers should speak clearly and concisely and should stay focused on their main points. Number 3, speakers must refrain from making complaints about personnel, either naming the employee directly or identifying them indirectly. Number 4, complaints regarding district policy should be filed in accordance with District Code KL Public Complaints. And lastly, speakers must respectfully communicate. Speakers must refrain from making threats, using vulgar language, intimidating or harassing the board or members of the district. Up first, we have Ms. McDonald, and you have 5 minutes. Yes. Oh.
I'm Mrs. McDonald, and I appreciate being here. I apologize to Mr. Swan and to really all the board members, to the Native American culture belief, to the Buddhist culture belief, and to my own culture and belief, Christianity. I miscommunicated myself the last time I was here. I was shocked at the response I received, but after contemplating what I had said, I realized I gave setup details, which I learned from several books about the Buddhist culture belief and from speaking with a Native American man at a school program. But then I totally left out my main point, which gave a completely wrong depiction. What I intended to come across was this. Every culture belief is allowed by the United States Constitution. Even though our complete nation, including American education, is built on Christianity, we all have similarities. We are friends. However, the school system, both the Native American culture belief, the Buddhist culture belief, and others are encouraged and even forced. But my culture and belief is not allowed, and in fact, harshly punished. I am an example of this. A female student approached me some time ago, wanting my approval about her coming out as a transgender. Being a Christian, I believe that God made us exactly as we are meant to be from birth. Since this is my culture, my belief, I could not give my approval to her and instead gave an example of what my culture believe. says in regard to this. I was then immediately given a new route, because I am a bus driver, suspended 3 days with no pay, made to come back at the end of the year to clean 2 more buses after already cleaning 5, after all the other drivers had left for the season. Otherwise, they would have considered me abandoning my job as they stated to me. I'm requesting the elimination or the change of the policy stated in District Code GBC number 10, which states employees of district must refrain from using school contacts and privileges to promote partisan politics, sectarian religious views, or propaganda of any kind. Either the district eliminates all cultures and beliefs, including those of Buddhism culture and belief, and Native American culture and belief, and Christianity and culture and belief, or in any others, or we are free to express and share our cultures and belief, which in my opinion would be much more beneficial to the students and the future of Rapid City. You see, we all live our culture and beliefs. So thank you very much. And again, I'm very sorry that I have miscommunicated myself the last time I was here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Second speaker of the night is Shannon Bren.
Hello, Board. I'm Shannon Bren, and I'm a teacher at Southwest Middle School and been teaching for 38 years. I would like to share a few thoughts I have regarding the upcoming school calendar. Although I know next year's calendar has already been approved and can be difficult to create when considering all stakeholders, I also believe it's valuable to hear feedback to make the best informed decisions for future calendar development. And it's never too late to adjust anything if it betters the whole. My biggest concern with the calendar is how short the summer is getting. For teachers who depend on supplementing their income during these summer months, this shortage on time can be significant. A lot of teachers not only work at the rally, but also work at the fair and are employed by tourism-type businesses, which run farther into August than just the first 2 weeks. Losing an extra week or so of income can make a big difference in the world of some of our teachers. With salary being a major issue with retaining teachers, I think it's important to consider this when developing a school calendar. Because I wanted to know if I was alone in my thinking or not, I reached out to some middle school and elementary teachers for their opinions. My only point to this was to form an appropriate and fair opinion to speak up for teachers if I wasn't alone. First, when I asked them how they felt about the calendar and what they preferred to see, I found that as many teachers preferred ending early and starting early, that preferred ending late and starting late. Since one choice didn't really outweigh the other, I wonder if a compromise somewhere in between that, maybe just a little later in May and maybe just a little later in August, wouldn't be a good way to appease both sides. I also found the semester ending before holiday break was a small priority among these teachers. And from what I know from my high school colleagues, this is a big priority with them. I know this offers its challenges when building the calendar, but I believe we can compromise a little in May and August and still make it all work. Second, I also wanted to know how teachers felt about the total number of professional days we have scheduled in the upcoming year, including in-building PD, floating PD, work days, and early release Fridays. When I lumped them all, or when they were all lumped together, about the same number of teachers thought we had too many as thought we had the right amount. I did ask if anybody thought we needed more, to be fair, and I did have one person say, sure, more would be good. I then went deeper to see which types of days teachers thought were scheduled enough and which types should be reduced. Teachers really appreciate the floating PD days and the work days, but a majority thought the number of in-building PD days should be reduced. Teachers value PD days if they are meaningful, useful, and needed, but many feel they were established without a specific need this year, so they seem unwarranted. I found overwhelmingly, teachers think some of the PD days should be traded out for work days, especially at the beginning of the year. Teachers feel they need days in their rooms to set up and plan, not time in PD. They also felt more work days during the year would be beneficial. We spend a lot of time doing a lot of work on our off time, so having some time during a work day or to do that would be awesome. Treating teachers as professionals and giving them this time would send a strong, empowering message. Finally, I delved into thoughts regarding early release Fridays. Over half of the teachers felt they benefit somewhat from these days, but like the PD days, many are unsure of the purpose and direction they were to serve or are to serve. Although they feel they benefit by collaborating with fellow district colleagues, they are frustrated by travel time, time between meetings, agendas, and use of time. Would it be beneficial to hire interested, vested teachers to help decide and plan PD days and helps early release agendas? Maybe somehow combine these things to make the best use of both. Maybe this could be a way to reduce the number of in-building PD days we really need. In closing, I believe we can obtain a calendar that is a compromise between early May, early August, and late May, late August by reducing the number of PD days by a few, and we could still end the semester before the holiday break. I do understand that getting a school calendar to work can be a challenge when there are so many stakeholders, but I am asking you to reach out and gather some information from your workforce to ensure you honor their feelings and needs when making decisions. I remember a time when we had a committee of stakeholders. We had teachers and parents and students and administrators, and we all came together and just, brainstormed different ideas. We put out surveys, we came up with a few options, and we put it out to everybody to vote. Maybe that might be a good idea to visit again. What do teachers really want? What choices are they willing to sacrifice to gain it? Keeping teachers in the loop is important if you want them to buy into the decisions you are making involving them. Finally, I would encourage you or any person who works for RCAS that is not a teacher to sub in any building 1 day per year to gain this information firsthand. I want to end by stating that I love my job and I wouldn't have picked any other career. But as demands, sorry, I get emotional. But as demands and expectations on teachers increase, being heard, even on the little things, is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Board member response. I'll take hands. Mrs. Clapham.
My first response would be to say to our first year, it takes a lot of humility to acknowledge when we offended someone, when we feel like we've made a mistake, and I think that's a great example to our students, to our community, and so I'm very appreciative of that and appreciate that acknowledgement, and that takes a lot. I would say really quick in our second, we actually legally aren't allowed to sub as board members. We actually asked if we could and we can't. So that's the thing. We can't be paid by the district for that. I really appreciate all the research and input and reaching out to staff. And it is, like I said, it is complicated. I think all of us, when we have the discussion, we have all heard different things of what people want, what people don't want. So I think the calendar will be a continual conversation, I think, as over time. And it's good to have that feedback. I do think in our community forums, PD was something that came up multiple times. And so we acknowledge and see that that's a recurring theme, and we have been talking about it in our community outreach. And so we do hear you. And I said I'd appreciate all you do and the extra work to even go into research, those kind of things. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Superintendent Swaggart.
Thank you, Bishop Carr. Just a couple of things about the calendar. This next 2 years calendars do end before the semester does end before Christmas break. that is a significant change that was made on these next two calendars. It did add a week to second semester, but we feel that that is justified because of all the testing that we do second semesters. That was a conversation that we had. Teachers are contracted to work 181 days. So any movement on reducing PD days or anything like that does have an impact on the contract. So it is more than just a calendar decision. We are also required to serve students a certain number of hours. So if we add work days, we may have to add student contact days. For those reasons, because we have to make sure that we cover all of those hours. I'm happy to have conversations with staff about the calendar. I do bring those forward. I did contact many people last year and got a lot of input before we brought the calendars forward. As Ms. Brand's survey showed, that when you ask questions, you get a lot of 50-50. 50% of the people like something, 50% don't. I have heard numerous times, that the ideal desire is that we would start after Labor Day and get out before Memorial Day. That is the big desire that absolutely works the best with our tourist season and our additional jobs. However, we can't do that and accomplish our contract commitment. So if we do less days with our teachers and less days with our students, we risk not meeting the hour requirement, and we would risk changing pay schedules because we would reduce it would possibly reduce the number of days of their contract. There's so many things to weigh as we work next year for the 26-27 school year calendar. I will work to get a group together so that we can have those discussions. I would also remind the board that we did make it very clear this year that the contracts or the calendars are subject to change because we never know what's going to come up and may require us to go back to the drawing board and bring a calendar forward. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brooklyn.
Yeah, I just want to say very similar things. Thank you for bringing that to us. I know we've had this conversation before and I said a lot of the same things of we start late, we end late. So I appreciate you actually going out and finding out what it is for me. And I think that is a great idea moving forward on a higher level. Like, do we want to start late? Do we want longer breaks? Do we want to end early? Which of those is the most important? Because like all of us, I'm out in the schools too, and I'm hearing all these little pockets. So it would be great if we could get these bigger things. So I appreciate you bringing that forward to us. And I know, I hear you. I've heard it and I appreciate you bringing it to all of us. I really also appreciate the idea of the PD versus work day, like maybe making those a little bit more kind of pocketed, like train the trainer kind of things. I think that could be a really great positive change. So I just want to say thank you for bringing all that forward.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
Similar comments. It does take courage to come before this board, no matter what, really. But I appreciate the speaker's first comments and the clarification. But also with the calendar, of course, it's always 50-50. And you'd be so, I know one of the comments was made that they didn't quite know what to do with their PD day. And I've heard on the other half of that where they want more PD and they value that in certain pockets, like certain groups. I know paras would love a lot more, especially coming in new, but the trainer to train the trainer, that just is really necessary too. And that's maybe a smaller pocket. So yeah, however it ends up working the best for everybody. If it doesn't work for this pocket, then maybe that day can be something different for them, etc. But it's always nice to hear the ideas out there. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? I think I'll make a comment about the policy that was addressed tonight. I think it's very important when we talk about free speech, and we all value that and appreciate living in a country where we can speak freely. I think the difference and uniqueness of this policy as it is addressed the district is that we're dealing with children, and it's important to protect them from. I think it's important to just protect them from whatever view that doesn't come from their parents. I would be concerned if my kids were on the bus and whatever religion or whatever culture was said that I didn't personally believe. So I think that's why the policy is in the district and for the district, because we're really protecting children. Now, adults, you can, I guess, say what you want to say to adults, but we really have to be careful when it comes to children. So that's my comments on that policy. All right, anything else? Oh, Ms. Clappin.
When you specify that, and I'm glad you brought it up, I think it just is also very important to be clear on that culture and religion are not synonyms. And so we have to be very careful when we talk about, well, we allow certain, like, we don't disallow anyone's culture. And so to compare directly a culture and a religion, those two things are different. And it doesn't say, you're not allowed to culture. It specifically says politics, sectarian religion, propaganda. Those words were chosen very specifically because of their meaning. And so I just think it's important to make sure that clarification is clear, that those two things are not identical.
Okay. All righty. Superintendent report, Ms. Swaggart.
Thank you, Bishop Carr. Front page only tonight. It's pretty exciting. Strategic planning. We have wrapped up the employee experience surveys. We have given the principals and the managers their numeral results. We are then partnering them with a survey partner, and their comments will be coming to them with the survey partner to help talk about that. And that rollout will be happening in all school buildings and in departments before April. So we're excited about that. As the student reps have talked about, ACT and ACT prep, and pretty soon the SBAC testing and all of the other spring testing is coming down the pipe. It's really March and April testing season. In South Dakota, it seems like we have, ski season, hunting season, and testing season in schools. And we always encourage our schools and families to support the students in that work. I will remind the board that, and a very exciting information from the Department of Education is that in the year 25-26 school year, so not next year, but the following year, all juniors will quit SBAC testing, and across the state, we will be doing ACT testing. That is very good news for Rapid City because we currently pay out of pocket for our students to take the ACT and the pre-ACT, but the state will be taking on the ACT costs from us. So we only had to purchase a 1 year. That was exciting. As far as the community goes, or one other thing for the students, I had my student voice forum last week. That is seriously one of my most favorite activities that I have. It's really grown this year. I hope it continues to grow. I would like to get more middle school and possibly some elementary students to come to that meeting. We talked a lot about all of the different organizations that the students at the table are involved in. They're almost as busy as me and probably each of you. Our students these days are incredibly active in a variety of things. Last week, somebody from the robotics club came and spoke as well. And they have about 6 weeks to get ready for their competition. So that is some pretty strenuous timeline there to completely design, build, and test before going to a competition with a robotics device. As far as community, since the last board meeting, some of you Deb attended the Boy Scouts breakfast with me. Of course, that was an incredibly early morning. We got there about 5:45. We did get to we did get to listen to a gold medalist, a gold and silver medalist, and we got to hold the gold medals. And I'm a big Olympic nerd, so that was incredibly cool. It was amazing how many people were up at 5:45 for that breakfast at the Ramkota. So it was a really good turnout. I've also presented to local Lions Club, attended the PAC meeting, and I presented at the city PTA. Bishop Carr was also there that night. As far as communication goes, the survey rollout and how that training went to the principals and the leadership. The whole thing about our surveys historically is that we don't have our staff and our community doesn't have a lot of faith in the surveys that we take because they don't see action after the fact. We are making a point this year of showing how action statements are coming from the survey results. So every leader in our district has been tasked with going back to their building, talking about the survey results that connect directly back to our scorecards. And you're going to get a report on that next Tuesday during the work session, study session. And to pick a building focus based on their results. And I'm really excited to hear what each building and what each department picks as their focus based on their survey results. This week, we had a meeting on Monday about the ribbon cutting for South. I know that that has come up on, some of you have been asked about it as you have been out and about. The official ribbon cutting will take place on August 20th, which is the first day of school. It's going to start, hopefully, it'll be held outside, weather permitting. It's going to start about 9:30, but I would encourage board members and community members who want to be there to arrive early. And we'll try to get that wrapped up before lunch. Then our speakers and our board members will be able to take a tour that day if they would like. Community members will then be invited the next Saturday. So this will be happening on a Tuesday, I believe. That Saturday, we're going to open up South Middle School to tours to the whole entire community. We also did share that we're going to have some celebrations of South Middle School before the old building goes down, which means we have to do that in April. So I think it's the first Saturday in April. They're going to have a celebration of the old South Middle School. And we also are going to celebrate Canyon Lake in the beginning of May. So I will get you those dates, invites out so that you have those on your calendar. District highlights, as Samuel shared, Stevens High School girls basketball competition begins Thursday. If you're not traveling to the games, South Dakota Public Broadcasting does an amazing job of carrying the state tournaments online. And you can always watch on there and see. I will also remind you that because of Rapid City's horrific situation with our cheerleaders from Central, that started the Spirit of Six Award. And as a former cheerleading coach, I will tell you that that is a major deal for our cheerleaders that get to compete at the state girls and boys basketball tournaments. And at each level at tournament, a Spirit of Six team is awarded. And the judges come in and watch for a variety of things. It's pretty stiff competition. How they behave as a team, how they interact with their crowd, how they behave out and about in the community, how they support the students and the student body. So that is always an exciting thing to watch. The last night during the final game at halftime, they present that award. Director interviews are scheduled and wrapping up. And so I will be reporting back to the board on job offers. And so I would like you to know that that'll be on your table very soon. Legislation wrap up, as many of you are aware through communication with me. Senate Bill, House Bill 1048K was tabled in the Senate yesterday. They brought it back under a title bill that was Senate Bill 127. Title bills are something unique where they are a bill that has some sort of very general or vague statement of a category. This one was called, this one was about enhancing education in South Dakota. That was just the general bill that was passed very early in the session. They become kind of empty bills that can be filled with things that have been killed or things that aren't going exactly as they wanted them to go. So they brought back the original 1048. They placed it under this title bill, Senate Bill 127. They tabled 1048, and then they agreed to take it to a conference committee. Conference committees are 3 House representatives and 3 senators, and they go in and decide how this bill is going to be finally written and then sent back to the respective houses and voted on. Right before I came in here, I received an email that the Senate Bill 127 found its way into the conference committee. And they came in at 12, gavelled in, and then went to recess. After that recess, they came back and they cleaned up some language. It stays with the minimum salary of wouldn't that be nice, of $45,000. It also, we had been kind of pushing through our lobbyists a average compensation that would be 50% of the growth percent that was moving forward. They have basically agreed to 97% of the average teacher compensation. I'm not exactly sure why. So there is not much thought that it's going to change because it has to be settled tomorrow. They gavel in at 10 a.m. tomorrow. We are being told that this is really being pushed by levels higher than legislators coming out of the governor's office. And at this point, we don't expect it to change. We expect it to be 97% of the average compensation and the $45,000 starting salary. So that's where we are on legislation. Everything else has pretty much worked its way through. The Senate Bill 203 allowing guns with principal permission on an enhanced carry did pass. School boards are being encouraged to look at a policy on how they would like to have that controlled locally. So we will be bringing a policy forward about that. As far as the directors go, Marzano, the company that's coming in to work with our special education department, they will be here March 21st and 22nd. They'll be having short interviews with teams of general educators, special educators, parents, and even students. And that will be a big part of their work and their report back to us. We've been sending them a lot of data, and we're wrapping up that and getting ready to work with them on ways to move forward. We are finishing up some scheduling conflicts and scheduling up the final IEP meetings that were connected to the state finding. In teaching, learning, and innovation and college and career readiness, in my last meeting with Dr. Seals, we talked about how science and social studies are up for adoption next year, and reading K-5 is up for adoption the following year. That has caused for us a need to really look at our capital outlay requests for curriculum coming up in the next few years. And I know that that information has been shared with Mr. Sassy as well, and there's meetings scheduled because the preliminary request for curriculum in the next few years is $7 million. Now, if we look back at what it cost us for the K-5 math curriculum that we approved last year, we are now talking about 3 curriculum adoptions in the next 2 fiscal years. So something to think about. Bobby and Mr. Daniel met with Drew Spox and looked at some preliminary design for our web page refresh. We also made sure that we met and talked, they met and talked with them about the newsletter because they're going to support us in that work moving forward and work on the app. Remember the primary, we've asked them to speed up the newsletter portion, get that to us as soon as possible. But the primary website revamp and the app will be out this summer. From federal programs, Director Strong and I have spent quite a bit of time discussing conscious discipline, as was very apparent in the staff forum the last week, both staff forums. We heard a lot about differentiated PD. I really truly do like the idea of looking at maybe getting some teachers on the job to help us differentiate, because as I've explained, it's very difficult for one principal who's in charge of PD for a building to differentiate for an entire building. And as you look at the sizes of our building, it gets more and more complicated, but bringing on some veteran staff to help with that work is very important. But Director Strong and I have been primarily focusing on how we need to get conscious discipline and other trainings pushed out to our paras, our subs, our SROs, in our security. And we're looking at a combination of both online and in-person training that we can utilize for those teams of employees that really want to know more about what we're doing in the classroom, but it doesn't fit with their onboarding process that we have in place right now. Camille and many principals have been actively traveling all around the local area to a variety of hiring fairs. What I'm hearing is there is a lot of competition for these positions, but it has come back to my attention that students love our representatives because we do not push just salary and information. We actually ask them questions like, what are you looking forward to? Are you interested in the Black Hills? What our benefits are, what things are available out here. They're talking a lot about a whole life and career opportunity in the Black Hills and in Rapid City area schools instead of just pushing the dollars. And what I'm hearing is students are really appreciative of that, because sometimes they just walk up to a recruiter and they just get, this is how much we offer and we pay better than everybody else, sign on the dotted line. And they like to hear everything else that we have going on. I've had people try to recruit our recruiter and our principals to go work for them at job fairs because they're doing such a great job. We have had some employees sign work offers at these fairs. So that is really good news. This is the first year we've actually done that. We've actually put a document in writing and are able to hand them something if they're ready to commit to us. The first ever safety PD for our SROs and our security officers. Mandatory PD training is scheduled for March 22nd. Mr. Sargent has been working really hard on that. In addition to some medical training, some cultural training, they're starting a book study on de-escalation, which I think is very valuable in their line of work. So we're excited to see how that goes on March 22nd. And in legal, Kelsey and I recently had a meeting, and we think that maybe we've been approaching the whole policy work a little bit wrong, where we bring it to policy committee and then we all learn kind of at the same time what's wrong with the policy. We're going to try to do some policy work internally in the district so that when we bring it to the policy committee, it's really been worked out in the district, and we can bring it to you for your blessing or your concerns and take it from there. So we're going to rework how that policy committee is working moving forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Mrs. Stephenson.
Thank you. I have a list of short questions. The employee experience survey, you said they're gonna go through the actual comments with a survey partner. Is that somebody from?
It's one of the directors.
Okay. Just the details, the Marzano visit, the interviews with parents, is Marzano just choosing parents at random or students at random, or are we providing?
We're providing contact information I think we're sending out an invite for parents of special education students who want to be involved in that.
So that invite will go to
Yes.
everybody or?
I will
Well,
check back with Kira and Todd and let you know, but
I think
we're not loading the panel. That's what, I mean, we're trying to get a very representative voice of information to come to these meetings.
All right. So question about curriculum, a social studies curriculum. Does one exist that meets the social studies standards for South Dakota?
We have been kind of on pause because if we look back to how the social studies curriculum approval process went last year, there was $800,000 set aside by the Department of Ed to work on providing curriculum. $800,000 wouldn't have covered our K-5 math adoption. So it was a very small pot of money. They have utilized that funding to do some South Dakota education. But to answer your question, as it is written in its entirety, there is not a curriculum company that has that ready for us to go. It's gonna, next year is going to be the social studies adoption is going to be quite a process.
Do you think it's gonna be more of like, we'll just buy the best curriculum that we think fits and then supplement with state materials that they're developing?
We're going to have to determine, we're not tested in social studies in the elementary SBAC at this time. We're gonna have to see if they're going to pull in some testing on that. We will work the process. We have a very amazing curriculum adoption process. And that adoption process includes input from staff and community. And we will make sure that we are going through that process as we do for every curriculum adoption. If we do not get, I will not bring something forward that has a price tag attached to it if we do not think that it's gonna fit the state requirement, because we don't at any time want to waste money. So we may come back and ask to just do part of an adoption at the levels that we feel like we can really fulfill the expectation. But we have not seen any approved curriculum out of the DOE yet.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And then,
Dr. Seals also has maybe an answer for that.
oh,
Sure. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Christine, for the questions. Our social studies materials that are in use now in our schools at the secondary level are up. We've used them for more than the 7 years that they were adopted for. And so the amount of money we are spending each year to keep the online aspect of those materials working is also a cumbersome expense. As far as the review of materials, we have, created the rubric tools, level 1 and 2, that we use for our adoptions. And there are products that are certainly a close match. And we continue to work with those publishers on what it's going to take to meet the needs of South Dakota. And they're, our publishers are well aware, the ones that took it on are well aware of what the new requirements are. So I would just add that, but I agree with Nicole Swaggart. We would never bring something forward that we didn't think was going to, be 90% or more of the curricular needs would be addressed by that program.
okay, thanks for that explanation. I really just wanted to wrap my mind around it so I could have conversations with people about it. So I appreciate both your input. 2 other short notes. Thank you for the newsletter and putting a rush on that. That's been something that I think will help the whole district, including the board, communicate. So I'm excited to hear that. And then thank you for the response about conscious discipline PD. I think that's going to be one, all we hear about is behavior. So it's terrific to hear that at every level of staff, people are going to speak the same language when it comes to behavior. So I'm happy to hear that. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Swan.
Thank you, President Carr. I just had one question. Superintendent Swigert. I guess, piece of information for your safety training with the SROs and security. The cultural training that's being provided, I just would like to make a recommendations for the Rapid City Community Relations Commission with LaFawn Janice. She does a wonderful job with that. And she's been training all over, like with Monument, and she's been training city employees. So she has a whole presentation laid out and everything. So it's a really nice presentation.
Ira is actually doing the training this time. We're just tasking him with that because it's the first day we've had training with him, but we hope to have every time we have PD to have training moving forward for our SROs and our security. So I will share this with Ira.
Yeah, Ira does know LaFawn. All right, thank you.
All right, I had a question about the statement on the policy that you and Kelsey were gonna do what? And the reason why I'm asking the question, because policy is such a main focus for the board that to have a meeting about policy that's out, that doesn't have a board representation.
What we're finding is that we are wasting the policy committee's time because we are bringing things forward that we then have to go back and Deb and Jamie and Kate can speak to this. So we're bringing forth policy that we then have to go back and kind of find out the history of it and the reasons why things are the way. For instance, the 9th grade reading requirement that students don't graduate from high school unless they read at the 9th grade reading level. The history behind that, I was able to share because I'm old and I was here when it happened and I lived through that. But so many times we have to go back into the district and get experts to explain why
Sure.
things are the way they are. We're gonna do that work before we bring it to the policy committee the first time, so that we're not bringing it in and then being sent back out. Now, that isn't that the board policy committee can't bring policy to us to work on. But instead of having to meet like 4 times on it, we want to be very prepared for that first meeting, and we don't feel like we were doing that part justice. So
Okay, so how do you know what to work on outside of the board making that assignment?
we'll take those assignments, but
Okay.
other things come up that are generated by principals, like the 9th grade reading. One principal requested that it be dropped from the requirement, and we ended up actually taking a different stance in that work because we feel that we don't want to lower the bar for our expectation of our students. So things naturally come up from buildings and in principals and leaders, something comes up, and then we need to make sure that we're testing it out at all levels instead of just bring it forward because one person wanted it. So we're just communicating that we're going to try to do a better job of being ready when we bring things forward to the committee. Now, although the board can share with the board members on the policy committee things that the board wants us to work on policy wise, and we will do that work.
All right, let me just make one more statement. I'm gonna let it go. I just want to make clear that policy doesn't come up. It goes down from the board unless I'm making.
I have my,
Okay, all right, Kate.
okay, so I am so thankful you made that executive decision because a lot of times, so a law will change. In Dr. Hafer's office for a little while, just special ed, as we're doing right now, something changes along the way where we have to make a new quick decision policy on other things.
Sure.
That comes up from the ground. That comes from outside.
Okay.
It comes from different buildings. Different buildings come and talk to different board members and say, hey, I want this policy change. That's something that definitely we can say, hey, can we look at that and find out what's going on? The only policies that a board member should bring, other than what's been suggested by buildings, is the governance part. Hey, does this make sense with the relationship of board and superintendent? And we have all those board governance policies. Those are the ones that, as a board, we should be working on. But as far as all the rest of the policies, unless somebody's bringing it to our attention, all of these things come internally within the departments. Hey, this isn't working at all of these buildings for curriculum. So they bring it to the experts, the directors, the superintendent. And that's where she's now said, okay, we're going to go over all of those things before we bring it to the board policy committee. That way, what they bring to that committee can be read through. And like she said, concerns from the board or comments that we have at that point can be made. This is much more efficient to do it this way.
Ms. Clapham?
I'd say it is much more efficient, and it's hard if you're not in policy committee but like, for example, something we had, I mean, and it was a good conversation, but it was like 45 minutes of conversation on like 4 lines of a policy that if Kelsey and Nicole had actually like kind of ripped it apart and said, oh, these are the parts that don't fit anymore, and then brought it to us, because you'll see sometimes how you get the policy and there's 42 red lines because it all got redacted. So it is just, it's an efficiency thing. It's not saying like they're deciding policy and then they're just showing it to us.
Okay.
It's a much more efficient way to do it than us having to have sometimes 3 or 4 policy meetings about the same policy before it even gets here.
All right. We may now move on. Any other questions for Superintendent Swagger? All right.
I just love throwing you for a loop
Yeah.
like this. It's, you
I mean,
know.
I was just trying to make sure now. But that's fine. I understand now. Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Sassen.
Thank you, President Carr. I'm going to be very brief. Got a lot of executive session conversations, so I think Superintendent Swiger did a nice job of talking about some of the mechanics of legislation, especially HB 1048, which has by far the biggest fiscal impact. So the bill that we've been watching most closely. As I know some of you did, listen to the Senate hearing on that bill last week. I was really encouraged by a lot of the conversation that happened during that hearing. I thought there were several comments made by legislators that really felt like there was some of the information and the things that we've been talking about that were starting to sink in. A couple of reasonable amendments that were brought forward. One being essentially a 50% requirement of the average compensation increase. And ultimately, the Senate committee moved forward with that amendment. Of course, as Nicole said, that got blown out of the water this morning, and we're right back to ground zero. And all of that, all those good feelings that I had during that session last week went away because Nicole was nice enough to share some information that she received with me, and I won't talk specifically about it. I don't know if it's forward or public facing or not, but some of the rationale that is cited in those discussions, I think is really to being way off base. So we've seems like we've done a couple full circles with this bill. We'll see what comes forward. As Nicole said, I think we can expect it to probably pass in the form that it's in. The good news is we've been planning for that, and we have never changed course because this often happens in terms of legislation. It can look like it's headed one direction and then come back another direction. So we'll be okay. We'll continue through this and see where it ends up passing. So Bishop Carr, I'm going to stop there. Plenty of more subjects to discuss in executive session. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, anybody have any questions? Mr. Berkland?
Sir?
The 97%, is that like the percent of the percent, like 97% of
Yes.
4%?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just for everyone, I did some math. So 97%, right, of 4% would bring it all the way down to 3.88%. And on a $50,000 salary, 4% would be $2,000. 3.88% would be $1,940.
Yeah.
So that is a $60 savings on a $50,000 salary. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
make extra clear how small that actually was.
I think you make a very keen observation and part of the concern, and again, I won't get too specific, but just in the brief time that I looked at that information is really around exactly what you just said in the deep confusion, in my opinion, again, around what the state aid formula is, what it does, how it actually funds school districts and the idea that there is, okay, so that there would be an available amount outside of that increase that the district could just use whatever for whatever they wanted, you know, and it's just clearly still deeply misunderstood. So good catch.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
About how are you feeling about these budget busters?
Yeah.
Because we hear about the curriculum needs.
Sure.
We hear that this bill is gonna pass in some form that is gonna increase our responsible salaries to
Sure.
45,000. So how concerning is that to you as far as obviously basically our budget's gonna have to be,
Sure.
you know, looked at and the strain that all these demands on it put?
Sure.
Where are you kind of with?
Certainly it's concerning. I would stop short of saying highly concerning. I don't think we're at a point where we need to ring any alarms or any of those things. I think, in my opinion, much like the very short-sighted tunnel vision that happens when these bills are being discussed, we have to step back, zoom out, so to speak, a couple of layers, and really look at the budget holistically and what is happening in each fund, what is happening between each fund. And so, although, of course, I am concerned, of course, it's going to strain resources. The bigger picture management of that and the ability to steer the ship, so to speak, and make adjustments is still there. And we can still do all those things. And I would say the good news is, with the help of this board and previous boards, we've managed ourselves really well financially. When you look at the spot that this district was in 7, 8, 10 years ago to the spot it is in now, it's very different looking. And so that gives us the ability to absorb more of that, that type of movement. So capital outlay is always difficult because there's such fierce competition. It's such a broad category of spending. And there's always a really fierce competition for those dollars. So I've been chatting with Val and her staff. We're going to continue to talk. We're going to continue to think of ways that we can pave the way for those adoptions. So, you know, of course, it's difficult. It's hard work, but I am certainly not at a point where I think we need to ring a fire alarm.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, anybody else on the business manager report? All right, we have no conflicts of interest. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for proposed agreements.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the Canvas catalog? All right, seeing no discussion, no questions, all in favor of adopting these agreements signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Item 13, any item that board member would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right,
My hand was up.
oh. All right, which item?
Papa, please.
Oh, I love it so much. All right, anything else? Okay, all in favor of accepting, nope, yep, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going too fast. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Well, let me finish.
You could propose
Oh,
you could propose all kind of.
all right, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda A through Oscar signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, I'll entertain a motion for Papa.
So moved.
Discussion.
So really, and I'm sure Coy probably like wiggled in his seat when I pulled this. I actually pulled it just to point out that it was a point that was asked a while back and that it is clarified. And to applaud administration, it was kind of tedious and there was some confusion, and just to applaud administration for sticking to it and addressing it. And so that all the families in that area know where they will go, who has busing and who doesn't. And I'm very appreciative for our staff for addressing that. I know it was a little tricky, but I appreciate them addressing it.
Okay, thank you very much. All in favor of approving Papa signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, same sign. All right, item 14, any board committee reports? Mr. Berkland.
Thank you. So we had an instructional council meeting, the same night as one of our listening sessions. So, first, we learned a lot about a lot of new things that are coming. They're all very exciting. So the first one was, AP Spanish, as a pilot at Stevens, is a replacement of their Spanish 4 class. So, there's no extra needs or anything there. Just kind of putting that AP label on it, kind of like we did with pre-calculus, last year it must have been. So that's an exciting opportunity there at Stevens to start off. There's not as much consistency with Spanish 4 at Central, so it'll eventually get into Central likely, but Stevens pretty much always offers Spanish 4 Central, sometimes maybe doesn't. And then the second thing was on our new state reading, which is AIM. I don't remember what it stands for. Maybe someone can help me out there, but AIM, yeah, I'm sure it stands for something, but it's AIM Pathways, and it's science of reading. It's kind of like the letters that some of our staff has already taken, but now this will be all of them. All K-5 teachers, interventionists, literature specialists, special education. I think I got it all. It's in the PowerPoint. If not, I can gladly send that to you. They will all be trained in the 24-25 school year, and then one person actually asked about training afterwards, and that actually is going to be a little bit different for those who are coming in versus those who have already had the training. I know that was one of the things we heard at a listening session, so it was exciting to see that that is something that we are already planning on doing. And then the last two were kind of put together. They are Gateway to Certified Nursing Assistant and Introduction to Farm Tech. And those both come with an internship. And those are all provided by Monument, except for we have a teacher and who will run it, but all of the curriculum, all of the online stuff, all of that is through Monument, so no cost to us. So awesome partnership there. And that allows a 16-year-old in the CNA program and an 18-year-old in the Farm Tech program to take their certification type exams at the end of that. So then they are ready to go right out into the workforce. So 4 very exciting things from Instructional Council.
All right, thank you very much. Mrs. Steph, oh, yes.
Just as a clarification, I want to make sure that we mention that for the AIM pathway training, if any teacher has already gone through that training, we are going to differentiate their PD next year, and we're going to give them the AIM writing training instead, because they already have the AIM. We're not going to make them sit through what they have already accomplished. So I'm so proud of all of them that have done that. We're going to offer the AIM writing. And then the idea is that we'll offer AIM writing the following year to the ones who complete the reading. And we will continue to differentiate those who have already had that. So it's pretty exciting that it's very well thought out. And I think the TLI department did a nice job prepping for that.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Stephenson.
Thank you. I just wanted to add for the instructional council to clarify that the CNA and the Farm Tech are just going to be offered at Central. And I'm not sure if you said that. And that is a staff thing was my impression, or the main reason why is because of staffing. So I would love to see both AP Spanish and the CNA Farm Tech programs offered at both high schools. I'm completely I understand why it's not, but I really hope that that both of those are offered, because I'd like my kids to have access to both. So the community, the board community relations committee, board community outreach committee met. We discussed what we learned from the achievement gap listening sessions and the notion that we should listen to students, and we tried to figure out the best way to do that. So we wanted to propose to everybody. This is in no way in its final form, but our thought was that maybe we would ask high school and middle school social studies, government teachers, if they would like to invite board members in. Like, we could just do sign up sheets, and if a teacher said this Thursday at 2 o'clock, I'd love you to come in for a class, and we could kind of have a dual purpose where we talk about public service on the board and then ask students what they would like us to know. And maybe we could have teachers kind of prep the kids. We thought that if we try to do listening sessions with students outside of school, where does it happen? How do they get there? Can they miss their sports? All this, if we just go to where they are. Because we all thought, and my impression from you all thought, that listening to students is a good idea if we want to hear how to do better and reduce the achievement gap. So that's the main gist of what the Community Outreach Committee is working on right now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Swan. Oh,
No.
yep. Mr. Swan, yes.
All right. Thank you, President Carr. The February 21st Title VI Parent Advisory Committee meeting was held. I want to thank whoever was cooking the popovers, because that was a really good meal. And they did open up, and they really did start to talk about some really good things that were going on in our community by inviting on the Great Plains Tribal Leaders Health Board Navigator Program. And then they moved on to the senior honoring ceremony, which is the feathering ceremony, which will be Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024. And
It's on my calendar.
it's on, and you should have been
Yeah.
sent an invite from
Yep, you got an
Shirley.
invite.
Yeah, and then the other, it's shaping up to be pretty good. We've got the CEO of Crazy Horse gonna be our, Whitney Raincounter will be the MC, and our very own Dr. Justin Conroy will be the keynote speaker. So it's looking like it's gonna be a pretty good ceremony. Also, they are honoring the Children Wachipi. That usually honors kids that are kids from, I believe the transition is from 5th grade to and 8th grade, and they honor those students. But they're looking to raise money right now for that. I believe that they're having a dodgeball tournament to fundraise on 4/20. That should be fun. So I think that would be a great opportunity for each of you guys to participate in. I'll be refereeing, of course. The Title VI grant public hearing has been moved to next month so that they can get raise some awareness in that. And they are looking to do a couple of revisions on their bylaws as well, so that they can operate a little more efficiently. But overall, I think it was a great meeting. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Thomas.
The only thing I would caution us about having the meeting with all the board, it's a public meeting. As soon as you have 4 members, you would have to make it public, and I don't think we want the public to be able to come into the school's classroom access.
So that's the sign of we limit to 3. It'd be the first 3. So it would never be more than 3 of us.
And the hope is that there would be multiple sessions, that we couldn't all do it because, we've got 4 or 5 to go to.
Right.
When she said all board members, she meant all of us at different times. So not just the, yeah.
I get it, but I
Okay.
would hate to miss out on those conversations with, because that could widely vary, and each of those voices are really important. I feel like I would want to be at every one, and not be restricted, but just something to consider.
Anything else? Board committees, anything other, any other? Ms. Clapham.
Just a quick shout out to Canyon Lake and thanks so much for them inviting us to their reading event. It was wonderful. I was so impressed. There were several people at the sale that read and the kids were very excited and I was very bummed. I missed the teachers getting pied in the face because I really want to be there for that. But just great job. Miss DeMaria in particular, she did an amazing job organizing that. And you know, there were police officers and firefighters and the mayor and so it was a really impressive event and really great. I thank you to the people who came out to the listening sessions. I thought our 2 listening sessions on retention and recruitment were really good, that we got a lot of information and it encourages us that the community and our staff is willing to come out. And in that, in the in-person listening session, I just wanted, I know it's come up and Bishop Carr shared with me sometimes as board members, everything moves slow and you sometimes feel like you're not making a difference or things aren't happening. And this is a very visual thing for me. And I always preface anybody who's watching this and knows that I'm the warm fuzzy one. Okay, so just prep for warm fuzzy, but that to see you talk about you drop a rock in the water and the ripples ripple and you can't see how far they go. And at that listening session, Mr. Swan spoke to one of our staff who he was their teacher and that teacher was teacher of the year. And prior to that, my father-in-law was Mr. Swan's teacher. And I really saw visually how those ripples, they don't stop. And so when you think out as a board member and you sit here and you were able to get the finances for teachers to have a raise, we don't know what staff that we held on to because of that. We don't know what the policy that, you know, now teachers are getting paid when they have to cover somebody else's lunch. Like, we don't know who that kept that's affecting a student, that's gonna affect another 100 students, that's gonna affect. So just keep in mind the ripples from this desk, from our staff, all of them, that we don't see where they end. And so when you feel like you're kind of trudging and we're not going anywhere, that we really are making an impact and much farther than we can even see or consider. And so it was a really cool visual when you spoke to her and I thought, wow, like that goes all the way back to, like I said, you know, my father-in-law in the 80s and how many students each of you will affect. And it was a good reminder when it gets hard.
Thank you for that. Mr. Brooklyn.
Thank you. Sometimes I let Jamie go first because I know she's gonna say it better, but I probably should have went second this time or first this time. Because I was also just gonna congratulate Canyon Lake on reading a whole bunch of pages. It was great to be there with them, but I think that collectively they for sure read more pages than I've ever read in my life. So I added on like 20 to that and that was more than I've read in a while. So, but I wanted to shout out Canyon Lake and thank all the teachers there for letting us come into their classrooms. The classroom I was in was just fantastic. I always love going to elementary schools because you make like 30 new friends right away and they all want to hug and it's fantastic. So shout out to Canyon Lake.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Seeing no others, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session SDCL 1-25-2.1, SDCL 1-25-2.3, and SDCL 1-25-2.4. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.